Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Focus on Gaming podcast, episode 98. I'm Martin.
And I'm Duncan.
Hello.
Afternoon? No, evening.
I
don't know why I said afternoon, because it's 10:15 at night.
So hot.
So, gaming. Have you been playing anything this week?
I think I played... funny enough, we spoke about it very briefly last week, and I said I wasn't really that much of a fan because we spoke about Showcase and we said about Grounded 2, and we spoke a little bit about Grounded, but I played Grounded this week, but only because my friend messaged me, said, do you want to try Grounded? Because he's got it on PS5 and it's cross-platform. It is a lot better when you're playing it with someone else. So,
oh yes,
because it is a difficult game. You gotta like collect stuff, and it's not that obvious. But when you got someone else there, like you can just chat to and build and stuff and collect the materials with, and also when you run into like a spider, it's
easy. Gonna say, and you can scream out when the spider jumps out at you.
We did kill a few spiders actually together. So we killed a couple of mosquitoes. They were bloody hard. I think things that on my own I wouldn't have been able to do. So having someone there, we've probably done about 4 or 5 hours into the game.
Excellent.
I think we've got all our armor and stuff. We've got like a base we've built up, and now we got this one bit now which we can't get to because it's poison. When you go there, you get poisoned. So we got to make gas masks, but we need certain materials to make the gas mask, which we don't yet know how to get. So, but that's what I've been playing.
It was an enjoyable game, but like you said, it's good with friends. And if you haven't got friends that are available all the time, it is a very difficult game. I only played it as well when it was. I think I may have played it when they did the 1.0 release, so that the story was complete. But I mostly played it when it wasn't complete. So I don't know if they made it harder, easier, or whatever. But if you like crafting games, it's a perfectly competent one with a good story apparently. And the sequel is coming out, I think,
end of July or the end of August.
I think in the next couple of months. And they all get shrunk again by the looks of it. God, it's a bit stupid, really, isn't it? It's like, if it was that difficult last time, don't get shrunk again. But apparently they are. So, keep an eye out for that. Was your friend wanting to play it because they wanted to experience it before the second one came out?
No, I mean they've had it for a while, but this friend I played probably most of my co-op games. I'll play with him, and we were playing Rocket League prior to that. So I'd always, because he works from home, I work from home most of the time. So on our lunch break, we'd play Rocket League, and we pretty much do that most days.
Lunch break is that in inverted commas?
No, I don't know. I got too stressed with it, so I uninstalled it because he was like, "Oh, do you want to play Rocket League?" And I was like, "No, I've uninstalled it now." And he was like, "Oh, fair enough." And then I was like, "Oh, I have to find somewhere else to play." So we were having a look. He's got Game Pass as well, but we were just having a look at sort of what there was, sort of multiplayer games on Game Pass, and then Grounded came up. He has it on PS5 anyway. So, but I
presume that you can't play via the website on a browser, on the PS5 browser on Game Pass. I'm guessing, because I'm guessing that the controls wouldn't be recognized.
Yeah, I don't know, to be completely honest. He's got PS5 and he's got an Asus ROG Ally thing, so he has a game.
He can play anything.
Yeah, Asus ROG Ally, but then obviously he's got his PS5 and his internet's not very good, so Because where he lives, he doesn't really do much cloud gaming. So he's gets put off by, because I'm like, oh, just do it on the cloud, because he's always on about his storage and stuff. But then because of his internet, he likes to download the games. But
you had a pretty dire internet until probably double-digit episodes, didn't you?
Yeah.
When we first started doing this,
when I first moved where I am, we didn't have much options, and then luckily
full fiber.
We got fiber that says it goes up to like 900 odd megabytes per second, but usually it's around the 200 odd mark when you're wireless, which is quick enough. Okay. So.
Well, I have been playing I've been playing a few of the Game Pass games, but I've been playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33 still. And I finally, today, so this is Monday the 16th, I have completed it.
Congratulations.
So I was doing a lot of the side missions with some of the optional bosses before I went to the final boss, because I thought, I'm sure there'll be some harder bosses than the final boss, but I can imagine that it'll get my level up so that I'll be able to do the final boss. Not easily, but I won't die very quickly. And some of the bosses, I remember there was one boss. Let's say at the time my players were just, their basic attack was probably averaging 15,000 hit points, like taken off per attack, and there was one boss that it must have had something like 100 million hit points, because it took probably I think it took over an hour for the one boss, because it was just every little attack was just this teeny tiny little bit of getting off it. So yeah, it was all in the build up for a final boss, which I won't say who it was, because that will be a big spoiler. But it's not who you think it is from the trailers and from knowing the basic story. That person, or that being, you defeat halfway through the game. Anyway, so I got to this final boss, and they don't level up with you, so they are a set level. And it started up. It's all very cinematic. It's all very emotional. And 3 hits, and he was dead. I said he. They. And they're dead. That was it. Main boss, 3 hits, dead. And so, now granted, I had grinded a lot of levels. So I was, obviously I was overpowered, but I didn't think I was that overpowered. And so, it sort of spoilt it, but because the game is so good and the story was so good, it's all quite emotional. And then there was also a choice afterwards that changes the whole ending of the game. You can do one thing or another that literally gives you like completely different, yeah. It doesn't it's not a Mass Effect thing where it changes the color or something. It changes the whole ending that gives you this choice. So with that being quite a disappointing boss fight, I thought we'd talk about bosses in video games. Best ones, the worst ones, some of the cleverest, some of the easiest, some of the hardest. I think we play quite different games, don't we? So I think we'll have quite a breadth of knowledge of various bosses. Ooh. So that was a terrible boss. If I say video game boss, is there one particular boss that comes to mind for you immediately?
mean, the obvious ones for me would be like the Nintendo ones because they make them a big part of their game. So like Bowser, obviously,
they're gluttons for punishment, aren't they?
they're not obviously it's not as famous as Mario, but he's almost as famous as the protagonist. That is as Mario. So and obviously they build the game and you just fight him throughout the games in Mario, don't you? Whereas in most games, it's a build up to that big boss, and then you have the boss and what next.
Yeah, I mean, if you go with the original NES Bowser, though, it was possibly one of the easiest parts of the game because you just ran under him.
I mean, he's not that hard in any of the Mario games.
No, I mean, I was going to, I suppose, even the ones where you have to hit him with something, it's generally 3 hits, he's down.
Like Super Mario 3D World, which was the one that came out on the Wii U. That was quite a long battle. So there was a bit where you fight him initially. I can't remember what the initial battle is.
Different stages.
Yeah, and he turns into a cat at one point, and he's like a giant cat, and he starts chasing you up the wall, and you can't fight him at this point. You just got to avoid him. But then when you get to the top, you just throw like this power thing on his head, and that's it, really. But
so that would you say it's because it's got the different parts, the parts where you can't attack, the parts where you do attack, the parts where you might have to platform a bit. And that's how they make it interesting. It is a clever boss. It's not. They're not because you also have the bullet sponge bosses who are just here's a boss, shoot them thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and they might eventually die. Whereas something like the Bowser that you just talked about is it brings together the whole game. So it's got the platforming sections. It's got the bit where you've got to jump on his head, or you've got to throw something at him, or you've got to use a slide, or you've got to, in that case, with Super Mario Wonder, you've got different hats, that you might have in a boss fight, and so that this is why their bosses are good because they make you use what you've learned. It's not just here's a boss, kill him.
Accumulation of the game, isn't it? And it sort of brings it all together, which also sort of brings me on to Zelda because they do that really well as well. So throughout Zelda, you'll get different items to let you to be able to sort of progress through the game. And then usually on the last boss, which is usually Ganon or Ganondorf, you have to utilize all those different things that you've learned, and that'll be in parts as well. So you might have like in Twilight Princess, which is my favorite Zelda game. There'll be like Beast Ganon, and then you beat him, and then
wasn't there one of the Zeldas? There was a Dark Zelda. There was like a mirror image of you or something.
Yes, on Ocarina of Time, where you it's just yourself, and you come out and you're in this like plain setting with water, so it's just reflected, and then there you are in like
because there's also a boss in Tomb Raider where you have a skinned version of yourself that basically copies every part of every motion that you do. So if you try and shoot it, this is the original Tomb Raider. If you shoot it, it shoots you. And so what you have to do with that is you don't shoot at all. You go out, you find out there's a switch somewhere which opens up a panel in a floor. So all you have to do is then walk around the opposite side so that the mirror image walks over the hole and falls down the hole. So I didn't know if did you have to do anything like that with Zelda, or is it most just items?
Can't think. I can't remember because it's such a long time ago. I can't remember if there was like a special way.
I can't. I wouldn't know. I've, as I said, I've played extensively. The only Zelda I've ever played was the first one on the Game Boy. That's the only one I've ever played. I have tried other ones and just not really got into them. I just don't know why. They just never clicked with me. But I've got to say, your favourite platformer from the Nintendo era as well, Donkey Kong. He was a baddie. He was a boss. Of course, in Donkey Kong. Yeah. But yeah, Nintendo definitely has some of the most iconic bosses. The ones you pretty much named so far, Bowser and Ganondorf. But I think one of the cleverest people who makes bosses is definitely going to be Mr. Kojima, because Metal Gear Solid has various ones have a lot of the clever bosses. And they're also cinematic in a way as well, because obviously you have lots of cinematics with them. But do you know the end that's in Metal Gear Solid 3? Do you know him?
Pardon, sorry.
Do you know the end? He's the really old sniper. I think he's meant to be something like 110 years old or something stupid like that. But he's a sniper. So you can defeat him by running around and hiding and him not shooting you, that kind of thing. But there's two extra ways you could do it. There's apparently a point in the game where if you have a sniper rifle, you can look across a ravine or something. I've never done it. I've only seen videos, and you see him in a wheelchair, and you can pop him in the head, and hey presto, it goes, you killed the end. Well done. But the funnest way is definitely when the boss fight starts, you can exit the game, set your device time, like date, to a year later, and when you reload the game, he's dead of old age. So Kojima just did so many ones like that where there was clever ways of doing it, and obviously Psycho Mantis.
Yeah.
You played the original Metal Gear Solid, haven't you?
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, Psycho Mantis, you would try and defeat him, you try and catch him, shoot him, hit him, whatever, and he would just block, dodge, whatever, everything you did, and he would just taunt you for and laugh at you, kind of thing. And it was clever in the way that it kept you going for a while, but eventually it does go ring ring, and your the general or whatever his name calls you up and goes, have you tried putting your controller in the second port? And it's like, oh no, I haven't tried to do that, because Psycho Mantis could read your mind, and the premise was that he couldn't read your mind if you put the controller in the second PlayStation 1 port. Now, I don't know how that works on modern consoles. But yeah, I don't know whether you'd actually be able to complete it if you were emulating and you didn't access the settings and add your primary controller as a second.
The emulators would have thought of a way around that.
Oh, you can add a second controller, but you'd have to know how to add a second controller or add your primary controller as a second controller. Yeah, but I'm sure PlayStation 1 emulators are quite old hat at this point, so I imagine that's quite easy. So Hideo Kojima, his games. I haven't played Death Stranding enough to know if there's even a boss in that. It did. I was one of the people that it didn't grab, because there's people that called it glorified delivery simulator, and yeah, I was just after a couple of hours. I have no idea what's going on, so I didn't bother. So there might be really good ones there, but in Metal Gear Solid 5 as well, you had giant, the Metal Gear mechs. That was quite impressive in that. So if you want a good boss, Hideo Kojima games are the way to go. But who would you say is the most cinematic? Have you got a cinematic boss or a cinematic game that has good bosses in it that you can think of?
Well, a lot of the Hideo Kojima bosses are quite cool, aren't they? But and
the
Ganon fights in Zelda is also quite cinematic.
Have you ever played any of the Final Fantasy games?
No, I haven't. But
because the Final Fantasy 7 obviously sticks out when you meet Sephiroth at the end, and he has at least 2 stages. Hang on, I'm just trying to think. Two. Yeah, at least 2 stages, and there's like a final stage that you just have to keep pressing the button X. But yeah, it's. I think a lot of it is the music. It's very operatic, big movie score kind of music, as well as the fact that back in those days, those graphics were absolutely amazing. I was showing my 7-year-old the trailer for Final Fantasy 7 this morning, actually, and you could see his eyes sort of going, like glazing over and going, yeah, they were good. That was good graphics, was it? Okay. But no, there were so many. And the thing is, with the Final Fantasy games, especially the ones that have the summons, is that the summons themselves, so like they're basically magic spells, the summons themselves are quite cinematic. So they change any fight really, or even a minor boss fight into a quite a cinematic, epic piece. But yeah, I mean, Sephiroth and things like that are iconic at the moment. Just having Sephiroth with his wings that he floats down to take you on. Oh, it's just it makes the hairs stand up on the back of my neck just thinking about it. But then I was 19 or 20, 19 when it came out. Probably by the time I got it, I was probably 20, but I was 19 or 20, one of them. So I was an adult. Yeah, a core experience, that is. It's if you know Inside Out, the movie. That would be one of my core memories. That's the one.
I think one of the most standout bosses for me is probably Nemesis from Resident Evil 3. Not so long ago, played the remastered version. So,
because I suppose what's clever about him is that he is a boss throughout. He's constantly following you, isn't he?
Yeah, so I mean, the game starts with you having to run away from him because he's there. And I think there's you and someone else. There's probably others, but he's meant to kill in people who work in this. Not to give the game away, but I mean, the game's quite old. But yeah, if you work in Umbrella Corporation or something, he's been set to kill you and others. So and I think there's only you and like someone else left. So he's pretty much chasing you throughout the whole game. And you can't actually do anything but run away from him the majority of the time, which makes it even
because he's invincible, isn't he? Until the very end.
But there's a few times during the game where you can sort of fight him, and there's a bit where he ends up going into the water, and that gets rid of him for a bit, and then he reappears later in the game, starts chasing you again. But yeah, it's like you get at the end of the game where you like liquidate him essentially in this machine.
Have him as a smoothie.
So yeah, that's quite stands out for me quite a lot because of how involved he was in the game, and the game is sort of based around him. He's on the front cover as well on the sort of, so.
Well, it is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, isn't it?
Yeah. His name's even in the title. So
and that's the thing. I think a good final boss fight can mask an average game. I think if you've got a very interactive, multi-stage and cinematic boss fight, if something like Clair Obscur is definitely is game of the year so far, by far. And I think unless something like the Outer Worlds absolutely comes out swinging and is amazing, I think Clair Obscur is probably going to be getting Game of the Year awards this year. But if a game is a 7 out of 10 and it has a brilliant end boss fight, it sticks in your memory. And I think people remember them more. Whereas you can have a 7 or 8 out of 10 that has a rubbish final boss, and it could completely ruin the game. So you're just sort of like, well, okay, whatever. And then another disappointing boss I was saying to you about, which technically it wasn't a disappointing boss, but it was fortunately in a fantastic game, was BioShock, because there's two antagonists in BioShock. You've got Frank Fontaine, who's basically prepped you, mind controlled you and whatnot, who you do have a proper battle with, I think. But then the big one that you're meant to be killing, and I think biologically is actually the main character's dad in the first game. It's been a long time. I don't think that's a spoiler. But yeah, Andrew Ryan, he talks to you and reveals a couple of twists and turns and everything, and then the door opens and then you pop him on the head and he's dead. And that's it. Luckily for that game, there are plenty of intriguing and clever bosses where, but the thing is with BioShock, because you have the plasmids that give you powers, it's more about how you built your character. So it might be that you're fighting somebody who's got electric power, or somebody that's in water. So you would have electric power and go and fry them. So it's how you've loaded yourself up. But yeah, so Resident Evil 3, I think the fact that you have this invincible, and he's terrifying to look at as well. I think it's not Resident Evil 3, brilliant game, but it wasn't as good as Resident Evil 2. But I think that the Nemesis brought it up to a sort of
made it memorable.
Yeah. What about massive bosses? One thing that comes to me, which I'm ashamed of myself that I haven't ever completed it, is Shadow of the Colossus. Now, it's another one that's quite epic but clever as well, in the fact that you have these giant colossi that are platforms for you to climb on there, and you have to kill them by climbing all over them, attacking a certain place or doing a certain thing. And they're, for the PS2, oh my goodness, they were just amazing to look at. Now you look at it and go, yeah, that's right. But similar with, I think, God of War, you had a few of them where you had like giant enemies that you had to fight. But Shadow of the Colossus, I want to say there was about 6 or 7 of them. And that was basically the game. You had to go kill these colossi. I mean, spoiler again. I think it turns out that you've been tricked into killing these colossi who are actually the goodies, and you've been tricked by the baddie to kill them, and so it's all very sad. So quite an emotional one that is. No speech in that one, but they're quite epic. So I don't know if you've got any epic style bosses that Ganondorf.
He does get pretty big.
He does get world destroying in some places, doesn't he? In some. I mean, you got yeah. Go on.
I was just saying, I try to think of some from the top of my head, and
I think one of the God of Wars had
big ones in God of War.
The PS2 era ones, I think, had what are they called? We got the Shadow Colossus. It's the Colossus of Rhodes. I think you've got where it's a giant statue, so you're the equivalent of the size of its, one of its fingers, and those kind of ones where it feels like the graphics are amazing just because they've made this character big. It's just a video game character, but they also do them quite cleverly sometimes, where there's more stone, right? It might be that you've got to hit their hand as it comes down to smack you or something, and then once their hand is down, you might have to run at their arm and hit them in the face or something. But they're not as they're not normally as skilled as something I can think of. Because one thing we haven't touched, because I've been nattering on, that you can talk about, Soulsborne bosses.
Yeah.
Which is the one that's made you want to throw a controller through the wall the most?
I can't think of any like a particular one because they're all really.
I don't know if are you like me though, where people go, and they say a name and you're like, and they're like, it's the one that's pink with feathers on its head. Oh yeah, the pink feathery head guy. Yeah, I know him. Or they'll go, the one that has two swords and rides a pig or whatever. I don't know. Just making these things up, obviously.
Yeah, I don't necessarily always remember the individual names of the bosses, but yeah, some of them I do. But
so if you think of one that you don't know the name, don't worry. While you talk about it, I'll Google the
name. In Elden Ring, like the first major boss always sticks in my mind because it took me so long to complete it. I think it's called Margit.
Oh yeah.
And luckily you could save right before it, but I must have spent probably a whole morning just doing it over and over again. And some of the times I'd go in and I'd die like instantly, and I'd be like, I'm getting like worse at this.
Oh, he's a pretty fella, isn't he?
And then when you eventually did it, because I was like coming up with different strategies throughout, so I was like, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to summon my wolves straight away, and then I started recognizing the different things. I knew like when he was going to jump, you had to sort of jump just before he landed so he didn't hit you and stuff like that. So when you start sort of taking in that into all account, then it's quite rewarding when you finally go ahead and sort of beat him. It takes ages. And then I remember there was a few times where I got his life really low, and then he would just because he could just hit you and take half your life off in one hit. Yeah. So he'd hit you a couple of times and you'd die, and I was almost wanting to not bother. And then the time I killed him, his life was really low, and I was like, okay, do I just keep trying to hit him, or do I be really cautious? And I just went, no, I'm just going to keep trying to hit him, because And luckily that worked out because
You have that horrible time with games like that, don't you? Where it's like they're so low, but if I just wail on them, they can hit me, and it's like, who's going to get the most health off first?
Yeah, there's that dialogue because you're like, okay, I can play it cautious and just make sure I don't get hit and try and get him when I get a good chance, or I can just go all in and just hope that I hit him before he hits me. But
Margit the Fell Omen. So he's the guy that does like a cape. He's got grey skin and sort of antlers kind of thing.
Yeah, you
What's
fight
coming out the side of his face.
the first major boss, unless you class like the Tree Sentinel as one of the major bosses, which is one.
Well, I typed in Elden Ring first boss, and it come up with the grafted scion originally.
Right.
I don't know who that is, but yeah. Elden Ring grafted. So, can you tell me something in Elden Ring? As soon as you come out from killing like the 4 or 3 or 4 skeletons, there's a guy on a horse.
Yeah, so he's called the Tree Sentinel.
Is that a boss?
I think you probably could class him as a boss. He is pretty difficult. I think I had to go back after I killed that Margit.
The websites are saying Tree Sentinel boss guide. So yeah.
So technically, you could class him, but I mean, you don't actually have to fight him to advance in the game. Whereas
I just was like, so yeah. Obviously, the tutorial is literally the skeletons, and they go, "Hey, this is how you attack things." So I attack things. I thought, ooh, maybe the people who have been saying that this game is as hard as Dark Souls are right, and I can actually do this. And I walked out, saw him, and was like, "Oh, let's go up to him." Thunk, dead. Damn it. I was not very good at Elden Ring. And apparently it's the easiest, but so that's Elden Ring. Which of the Dark Souls have you played?
I haven't played any of the Dark Souls.
Have you? Oh, sorry. I thought you played some of the Dark Souls. What other From Softwares have you played?
Sekiro is the other one.
Oh, well, that was meant to be the hardest, isn't it?
It's harder than Elden Rings. But yeah, that's quite a lot of bosses. It was quite a while ago when I last played Sekiro, but
so I think one of the famous ones in Elden Ring though is it Malenia? The Blade of Miquella or something. Malenia. So it's one that she's a woman with red hair and a helmet with wings on.
Yeah.
Have you defeated her? Is she an optional boss or?
I don't think I have. I'm just looking at her.
Ooh. Okay. Because I know there was somebody who was like who went viral that they put their services out that they would kill Malenia for you, and it was somebody who would turn up. I think they were obviously very good at it, and they would just kill Malenia for you, and that was it. They just went around helping people kill Malenia. I would be like, could you just hang around and complete the whole game for me? So Elden Ring, Malenia, Blade of Miquella. I'm guessing she's quite hard because she's probably fast because it's very long katana style thing, sword. But they are.
Yeah, she is ranked number 1 as the hardest according to some websites. So this person who was offering a service to kill her is quite a valuable service they were offering. But
they're offering it for free, so so I'm just having a quick look. Hang on. Why does that say number 6? I'm looking at some. Oh, hang on. Hardest bosses. Easiest to most difficult. Right. So the bosses for Sekiro. Why does it only go up to? Oh, sorry, the webpage I'm looking for. Oh no, it's taken a long time to. So we're getting up to. I'm going to go straight to number 1 because why not? The Inner Father and Sekiro. It's an old guy with an owl. The original owl is a great skill check to introduce you to Sekiro's late game. Owl Father unleashes the full potential of the Shinobi versus Shinobi fight. As a Shinobi, Owl is used to using dirty tricks. The inner version of the fight, though, unlocks new tools. Yeah, so it's just some old guy with loads of feathers around his neck and a big katana with an owl near him. I don't know. Apparently, this website says it's the hardest fight. There's also... Is Sekiro the one that you fight an old guy at the end, and it turns out the old guy is just possessed by... Or no, you fight a young guy, you kill him, but it turns out he's possessed by an old guy.
You do fight at the start against what I think you fight at the start with something, then you fight at the end. But you don't kill him at the start. I can't remember who.
Inner Ishin? Inner Ishin is everything you love and hate about Sekiro's final boss on steroids. So is it? Yeah, I don't know, but it's obviously there. Oh, blimey, there are demons and stuff. The Demon of Hatred is one of the hardest ones. It's basically a red, furry fire demon kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, nowadays I'm not somebody who goes for hard bosses. Definitely not. I mean, I will say, although I did say about Clair Obscur and I killed him in 3 hits, I didn't think I would kill the last boss in 3 hits. But I have got it in on the easy level because I wanted the story, and it has made probably 90% of fights reasonably easy. I'm not interested in From Software kind of difficulty.
Yeah.
But I mean, go back at things like Final Fantasy VII. You didn't have difficulty levels, I think, in that. And if you went to a boss that you weren't leveled enough for, you had to grind it up. But sometimes you can fake the by having like the ability to beat a boss because you might have something that nullifies, and that's the thing. This is where the tactics come in. If you've got an ice boss and you have on an RPG and you have a like you can't be damaged by ice, then you could just sit there and wail on them, and it doesn't really matter. But generally with Final Fantasy games, the last boss doesn't have a weakness, and you just have to wail on them quite a lot. But also you have to have a good team. So you have to have somebody that heals, somebody that attacks, somebody that has a good summon or something like that, or somebody that does regeneration, regen. But those are turn-based ones. I don't think I've ever really, I haven't really ever had a hard action game that I've played.
The first boss I killed was from Streets of Rage. They would have like a boss at the end of each level, and then at the end you had the big boss guy who was like the leader of this. I don't know what they were called, but the corporation thing that you were sort of taking down.
Yeah, they were like some really weird corporation gang, weren't they?
Yeah, I remember like because it's Sega Mega Drive graphics. You'd go on and then he'd get out. He would ask you if you wanted to join them. You could say yes or no. If you said yes,
that was it. End of game. Yeah.
I think it'd bring you back to level 6 or so. I think it just put you back a few levels, and then but if you said no, you'd get out a machine gun and start trying to shoot you. But the bullets, because it was N64, you could see the bullets coming towards you, so you could just like
slow motion bullets.
They look like Rice Krispies as well, so you just had to just sort of you could just avoid him, walk over to him, and start hitting him when he's like there trying to obviously shoot you. But on the last level, you have to go through all the bosses during the game.
Oh again. Yes.
But you don't actually have because you could just call in your police car.
And they had a rocket launcher. It's like, you've got a bloody rocket launcher. Why can't you just stay there and fire a load of rockets?
Rocket launcher, yeah, and it would like usually take like half the life of the boss, and then you would just then do the rest. Whereas you couldn't do that on the last because you were in a building, so they couldn't get into the building. So you just had you had like these the twin girls. I found one of the hardest. All the different bosses on.
Oh, the ones with the whips.
yeah. I think you first see them on the boat.
Yeah, they're like kinky girls, aren't they? Kind of thing.
Bloody, they were really tough.
Remember Final Fight as well?
No, I've never played Final Fight.
It's basically like Streets of Rage. Just it was I think the first Final Fight was a little bit after Streets of Rage. I don't know whether Streets of Rage 2 was. I don't know, but anyway, they're roughly all the same time, kind of thing. And so Final Fight, pretty much the same thing. It was the one with Hagar, and it was on I think on the Super Nintendo. They completely fluffed it by not. There was like 2 different versions you could buy, and they only had 1 character, whereas the arcade version had 3 characters. But yeah, it's a great game as well. Was like you said, all these bosses at the end. It would just be timing and, in a way, from software difficulty. In a way, because they were flipping tough games, and you only got about sort of 3 or 4 lives, and then maybe 2 continues. There was normally some kind of cheat, wasn't there? I think for Streets of Rage and Streets of Rage 2, there was a cheat to get you extra continues, but there wasn't like an unlimited continues. They were quite hard games.
Yeah, you had to do it all in one sitting as well most of the time.
Yes, couldn't say.
I was just having a look while you were talking about if you're playing 1-player Streets of Rage and you said no, apparently a trapdoor would open up and you'd fall onto stage 6 and you'd have to sort of go from there. If you're playing it in co-op and one of you said yes,
didn't you have to fight each other? Yeah,
they would face, you'd have to fight each other to the death.
Yay! Well, so technically, we are the boss.
Yeah, you.
There you go. That's one of the toughest bosses, I presume, nowadays, because obviously everything's online nowadays. So yeah,
you should do that in more games. On that, they should make someone else the boss, and you fight someone else.
Yeah, I mean, we've got. Obviously, the skill-based matchmaking that they have nowadays means that I suppose that the more you play and the more you win, the harder people you play. So the people that you're playing should be like a boss. I suppose that's the benefit if they have a good system. I don't play enough to know whether they're good or not nowadays, but
A lot of the time, unless you have people who set up new accounts, then they can just go and
play against bots and
which I would always really annoys me on Rocket League, because you want to play against people who are the same standard as you. You don't want to play against people who are terrible and you beat them 50-0, because you get no enjoyment. But you don't also at the same time don't want to play someone who's just a lot better than you, and that just happened a lot on there. You would like start the game and they'll be doing things that you just don't see anyone else doing, and you're just like, you just know from the start this is just gonna, and then you're like, why is the point? Like, what joy are you getting out from beating someone?
Yeah. Well, you get a lot of that, don't you? If you hear some whether they're a YouTuber or an esports player or something who has been doing like IP cheating and or just literally sometimes just cheating just to get that extra sort of rating or something. And you're like, what do you get? Now, granted, some of the esports players who have cheated or whatever, yes, they're getting money from it and making a lot sometimes, but you'll always be found out. I think there's so many people out there that are checking these people that whether they're cheating or not. There's just no point.
Technically, the ones on Rocket, they're not cheating because they're dropping down, or they're setting up new accounts, or they're dropping down their ranks just so they can play people.
But I think there are some games out there where some of the developers, if they do things like that, there are ways how they can find out if they're doing that, and they can, at the very least, they screw their game up.
But yeah, I mean, I can't really complain about cheating, because I remember on the early Call of Duty games, the glitches. There was a one on World at War where you could get under the map.
Oh yes, yeah.
And
Rainbow Six Siege.
You had to do like on a specific bit of the map. You had to like jump into this fence into like a corner, and you had to, while you were jumping, you had to land while crouching, and you would like sort of glitch into them. But it wasn't guaranteed you'd do it first time, and then you would like look over and you'd see about 4 people there doing this weird jumping. You know what they do, so you could just throw a grenade and get like easy kills before they actually got under the map. And obviously that didn't work, so you had to be pretty good with it to actually. And I think I did it like a couple of times where I got under the map, and I must have ruined the game for like the other team, because they just got one player shooting them from below and then getting all the kill streaks. So then, you'd have the dogs coming out in the.
Yeah, I've done some of them when what's it called? Rainbow Six Siege first came out. There was a couple of glitches that meant that people could like be invisible. Or there was ones where you could be invincible. Also, generally they were punished generally, though. Mostly they were punished with bans, like you get a 7-day ban or something. But I remember GTA Online, when GTA Online first came out, there were so many glitches. It was hilarious. I mean, there was one where you could get like you said under the map, and you could just shoot people from wherever you wanted. Obviously, there was the big one was money. When it first came out, they worked out how to give money basically to anybody, and all you had to do was join a server that with other people who had the mod, and they could give you money. So me and all my friends at the time, there was about 5 of us that were playing, and we all had about $10 billion. I mean, one of us though only got about $500 million, and we were taking the mick out of him. So, you're a poor. We bought everything as much as we could. We bought everything. But of course, they, Rockstar knew about this. So what they did is everybody who had got above a certain amount, they were instantly reduced to a certain amount, and so it was just that we were left with a bit of money, but not particularly much. Or it corrected what your thing should have been. But our friend, who only had about 500 million, they'd obviously put a limit on, for people who had the money given to them of about 1 billion. So after all this had happened and everybody been ripped back down to normal levels, he still had over 500 million. And so every time we something big that was cool, we were like, "Quick, you can buy it," because at that point they were just there was things that were a few 100,000, and he still had 500 million. It was great fun. Really good. But I can imagine when GTA 6 comes out, there will probably be some kind of online aspect similar to GTA Online, and I think if you get in there quick, there will be things like that again. No, I don't think it'll be. There's no doubt that things like that will happen, even on consoles. And so, if you want to have lots of money, get the game when it first comes out. Not that particularly is a game that has any bosses, but again, though, GTA has very clever, like sort of cinematic boss. Sort of multi-stage. Oh, you got to shoot this car so the car stops and then the person runs away. So, and then they've got loads of people that are sniping at you, so you might have to hide and snipe them, kind of thing. So,
a helicopter.
that kind of thing. There's quite a few sort of, I suppose you would call them boss fights in GTA that, they just look awesome. One that we haven't talked about that you don't actually shoot or do anything is Portal 1 and 2. Because Portal 1 and 2, the boss fight in the first one is GLaDOS, and the boss fight in the sequel is Wheatley. So in the first one, you have to. There's like a rubbish chute, and you have to. There's like energy balls, I think. You have to put the energy balls in the rubbish chute, and eventually, GLaDOS blows up or something like that. I don't know. But the second one is quite funny because once you've defeated Wheatley, you don't actually defeat him. You do what's called a portal near him, and then you can see the moon. And obviously, the moon is what is it? 85,000 miles away. So you can look at the moon, and you shoot another portal at the moon, and so big, and it literally even has the comedic sound of the you fire it, and after a few seconds, it goes, bing, and he gets sucked onto the moon. And fantastic. See, that's a brilliant cinematic boss fight that has zero weapons as such. I mean, obviously you have the portal gun, but because of the interaction of the boss, take the mick out of you in that case, and being hilarious, and the actions you have to do are fun. Is they're very, very, very good. If people haven't played the Portal games, Portal 1 and 2, highly recommend them. They're absolutely fantastic games with great boss fights, but they're not fights. Well, I think we've done bosses to death, really, haven't we?
Yeah, there's probably those we have forgot about.
Oh, but there's I mean, every game out there pretty much has some kind of boss. Even Animal Crossing probably has a boss in some respect. I mean, if you want some of the funniest bosses, go in the Yakuza games, because generally you have men in nappies. That's a common thing. So that should be an honourable mention, especially the Yakuza Like a Dragon ones, and now they're called Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. And then you got epic cinematography like Call of Duty, the original Call of Duty. It's not a boss fight, but the first level, D-Day, and it's just so many good. I suppose they would even call them they're set pieces rather than boss fights. Anyway, but I've rambled on enough. So we just hit an hour, so perfect timing really to say focusongaming.co.uk and like, subscribe, listen, blah 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 blah. And hopefully we'll have Tom back next week.
Yes,
I think he's penciling in returning. So yeah,
good.
Join us on our Facebook page and send us a question, and we'll see you for episode 99. On that note, bye.
Bye. Bye.